Lioness. Let me give you a link to it immediately. This is a visual novel. It is listed as a 100-page trans fantasy visual novella about queerness, fairies, and power. There's a link to this game if you want to check it out. Just as a forewarning, there is some content warnings on this relating to eye trauma, violence, and 18 plus not safe for work content. So if you have any issues with that, I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. This game is $10, but you can also find it in the locally sourced winter bundle, which is out of Michigan. So these are developers out of the state of Michigan. So Lioness, let's give it a shot. Alright, so Volume 1. It's to say Sangrine Lay, the Glasswing Knight. Chapter 1. Sir Sangrine lay at dusk. Send for me in the green of World's End. You have the silver of my sword. You will see me in the fen. Sir Sangrine Lay was born to serve Lord Silverbell, to follow her through Peat Bog and Blue Fir, through Mothley and Emperor, until she took the ruling throne. Most of the court thinks the Emperor did it alone. Sangrine likes it that way. Sangrine, I have something to say. Sangrine plants the tip of their sword in the ground. Silverbell has found them in the duskwood behind Moon Palace. Sweat dampens their hair, plastering it to their forehead. They are one of the unlucky Lunarians that feel the heat of exertion and the humidity of the bog. It clings to them even now, darkening their chest and filling them with muck. They try to catch their breath. It'd be unseemly to be chest-heaving while conversing with their master. Lord Silverbell wears her moon hair in an intricately knotted bun, placed just so atop her head, a net of seed pearls tucked neatly into the updo. She wears no imperial crown at the moment. Emperor she may be now, but she will always be Sangrine's lord. Silverbell's face betrays no emotion. Her round, dark, inquisitive eyes are so akin in the shape to Sangrine's that they could have been cousins. Those eyes now regard Sangrine in the still water of the swamp. Sangrine leans on their sword. What is it, Silverbell? Silverbell whips a bead of sweat away from Sangrine's brow and flicks it off like some unwanted insect. It is time for me to leave. Sangrine relaxes. Well, where shall we go, my lord? Alone. Silverbell is standing close, but she won't meet Sangrine's eyes. Just do a quick save. Lord Silverbell Lan, Sangrine tries. It's my duty to... No. I'm coming with you. Not this time, Sangrine. Have I done something wrong? Sangrine drops to their knees. Silverbell drops to hers. She efficiently strips her gloves, tossing them into the grass. She peels the damp, black deerskin from Sangrine's hands, her deft fingers rolling the fabric off when it clings. Then Silverbell takes Sangrine's cold, sweaty hands in her dry, lithe-fingered, warm ones, tucking both their hands into star-lattice gossamer cloak. It's always a marvel to touch and be touched, though in Sangrine's life it has only been Silverbell's skin that they've felt. Her hold is familiar as their own. It does not ease them today. Sangrine opens their mouth, but Silverbell goes, "Shh. No, you've done nothing wrong. You've been the perfect friend, the most wonderful companion. There will never be such a night." Sorry, one second. There we go. Then why are you leaving? Your throne, everything you worked for. I cannot explain it other than it is time. I must go. My wanderlust bids me home. Silverbell kisses Sangrine's hands. The both of them are still tangled in her cloak. Where is home? Just as your heart calls you to serve, mine calls me to leave. I am not. I am more than a blithe, witless servant. I didn't mean that, and you know it. I know it. I was out of line, Lord. Do you deny it? Deny what? What lies in your heart? I'm not some pathetic sugar-drooling cur. I never said you were. Silverbell's cloak pools around her as she lies down in the grass, graceless. What would you do if I ended your service now? Sangreen slips Silverbell's hold, which she'd maintain even lying down. They ball their hands into trembling fists as their guts fall right through them and down into the ethereal center of the earth. Their eyes sting. You know what I would be bound to do. You are descended from the celestial line of Lunarian kings. I am descended from the heavenly line of glass-winged knights. Silverbell tugs Sangreen's hands open and pulls them until they're lying down beside her, heart beating double time. You are the glass-winged knight, the last of your kind. I know you've always had the choice to start a new legacy. You are the only one who would know otherwise. Sangreen looks at the pointed tip of Silverbell's ear. I am the last of my kind, and in time we all shall be lost. I will leave no legacy. Perhaps one day you will be the only one to remember me. Sangreen. Silverbell squeezes Sangreen's hand. Do you deny it then? Sangreen sighs. It is undeniable that I do not lead the dance. You once told me your greatest wish. How embarrassing. Let's not repeat it. Silverbell smiles. I shan't then. Her water-tempered eyes reflect the charmless moon. Because it would be an unimaginable cruelty to cut you loose, I will leave you to Lin's Way. A treasured friend. She will take the throne when I leave. What is she like? She is more temperamental than I, but more clever, though not as vicious. Or not as vicious in the same way. I will be bound to her? By nothing other than your own word. You are not even bound to me, remember? The only reason you could say I'm not fate-bound is because you are the fate-binder. But you're right. The only thread binding us is the spider silk of long affection and the blood millennium of service. Listen. Silverbell takes Sangreen's hand. I want to be clear. If you ever wish to leave, then leave. Nothing will stay your hand from leaving the place. Never to return if that is what you wish. And where would I go? The lordless knight whose skills lie more in blood than sugar. You mentioned Lin's Way was vicious. How so? Lin's Way, she of the lilac moon, he of the starlit feather, is also known as the White Starling. He likes to play games. I do not like to be played with. No, but you always have been better than me at playing divinities. Sorry. You took the throne. That's what makes you the Grandmaster at it. Silverbell smiles. What does that say about you? I am too quiet and too tired. Come now. Anyone who knows you that you're not at all quiet. Perhaps only in comparison to the Leafling. I can't say too many people know me terribly well. Leafling does. And who doesn't love Leafling? Silverbell laughs, clear as her namesake. Come now, quiet one. Don't lose your tongue now. Silverbell sits up. Sangreen follows her lead. Sangreen follows her with her eyes until she shifts behind them and pulls at the ribbon, letting the lower portion of her hair fall down. Their hair is split into two layers, the top layer cropped in an angular bob that follows the line of their jaw, the lower layer curling over their shoulders and down to the small of their back. Silverbell combs the stiff strands with her fingers, her retractable claws flexing. You cannot expect his reign to be like mine, Silverbell says. Sangreen is quiet, sitting with her sore limbs, legs splayed out in front of them in a V, their arms linked to their sides. I will not serve an unworthy master. Silverbell strokes their hair. Do not decide that she's unworthy simply because she's not me. And remember, you can always leave. That is a power no one, not even Lin's Way, can take from you. Sangreen doesn't respond. What do you know of power, you who have always had it? What do you know of it to someone who's never wanted it, yet knows at the tongue tip of desperation what it tastes like to be powerless? Silverbell kisses the long tip of Sangren's ear. Lin Sui is lonely. I see much of myself in him. What I wouldn't become without you, or what I would have become without you, my constant companion, my dearest friend. What is a Lunarian lord without a glasswing? That's what you will be when you leave me. We will write to each other, Sangren. You will write to me. Even if that is my last decree as Moon Emperor, you will write to me. Save. Sangren's chest seizes as Silverbell ties up their iridescent black and jade hair. As you wish. Okay, Lin Sui, the Empyrean Monarch. Chapter 2, Lin Sui at play. Sangren gazes off into the distance. Lunarian lords have forbid it. I see her, but not the one I want. Silverbell is gone already. Sangren woke slowly, assuming they'd have time to say goodbye. But that dastardly milk liver of a scoundrel had left without a single farewell. Did you tell yourself that it'd be easier on me if I didn't see you leave? Nay, it may have been easier for you. Like this, you don't have to look me in the face. With her unbrushed, untied hair, barefoot, Sangren looks at the broad, white starling wings of Lin Sui as he approaches the palace. Sangren stands there in an imperial uniform that could be barely considered buttoned, the celestial knots hanging with a look of despair in their loops. It is perhaps not the best impression to be making on the next emperor, but so be it. One moment, Lin Sui is a league away, and the next, he is nose to nose with Sangren. My, do the best of us get a lovely greeting? He asks. Or he says. Hardly, but the best of us just left, Sangren says. The new Moon Emperor has the strangest eyes. Most Lunarians are dark-eyed, but Lin Sui has translucent irises, like luminescent river water. Sangren wants to rip them out of their head and hold them in their hands. They step back, not knowing what's gotten into them. They've not cared to possess anything since their sword. Are you quite all right? Lin Sui drawls, reaching out to touch. Sangren smacks his hand. I may serve you now, but you will do me the basest respect of asking before you touch. Lin Sui tosses her head back in a laugh. My, I should have figured it out. But it looks like your name is so very long. Too long for you to remember? I never said that. Lin Sui's eyes glint like an Aquarian diamond. Lin Sui is wearing a strange regalia. A huge swath of sable fur wraps around one shoulder atop her robes, and a broad, brightly patterned amaranth and lilac bow wraps around her waist. Her pants puff out before tightening at her ankles, creating a billowing shape. She gestures with one of her hands, and Sangren sees that she's not wearing gloves, which makes them shift foot to foot, curling their toes in their boots. They've only seen Silverbell without gloves. Send for me in the greens of the world's end. You have the silver of my sword. You will see me in the fen. That's your name, is it not? It is, but no one calls you that. They call me plenty of things, like the Emperor's Cur, and other things I shan't repeat. I do not intend to treat you like a dog. My, are you expecting thanks? Lin Sui's eyes turn into crescent moons. In all of our letters, Silverbell never gave me the impression that you were quite like this. Like what? Lin Sui's eyes glance over at Sangren's appearance with disdain deserving of a sheetless bed. Come inside, let's have some tea. I do not want to have tea with the likes of you. Is that a command? Would you like me to make it one? Lin Sui asks mildly. Forgive me, Sangren grunts, Moon Emperor. Nay, we shall have none of that. That title was deservedly earned by Silverbell. I will be known as the Empyrean Monarch, though you shall address me as Empyrean. I am more a monarch than you, Empyrean, Sangrine flits their glass wings. Lingsway smiles wryly, opening his white starling wings to their full span. It overshadows the sun. Then we will work splendidly together. Now get dressed. Not in uniform, but your favorite outfit. Sangrine narrows their eyes. That would be my uniform. Lingsway reaches out a bare finger towards Sangrine's cheek before halting. Their skin is a lustrous gold compared to the snowshine of their wings. Sangrine is darker than Silverbell, the hue of their skin richer and earthier. Though Silverbell's skin is gold-flecked, like the membrane of her wings in a worm skin. Then your favorite outfit outside your uniform. I should like us to speak to one another as aspiring friends. Sangrine says nothing and heads off in the direction of their chambers. Lingsway calls out from behind them. Oh, and Sangrine, I do hate to trouble you, but your chambers will be moved. It does not seem right to disturb Silverbell's chambers. I shall like you closer to me than Silverbell had you. Though, as I understand it, she kept rooms for you in her suite, which you primarily stayed in, though with minimal belongings. Not much for worldly possessions, are you? Is that a question? Sangrine halts in the hall, back-facing Lingsway. Yes. Lingsway makes no move. Then no. Sangrine does not turn around. Why? Lingsway is looking at their disheveled back. Sangrine can feel his eyes, and they do not want to look at him and feel judged as the unworthy creatures they are. Nothing I possess belongs to me. It all belongs to my master. Surely Silverbell didn't make you feel this way. She didn't need to. May I take my leave? Yes, off with you. We shall reconvene in the evening to take tea. I will make arrangements for our chambers and get to work. As you wish, Lord, Sangrine says automatically. That is to say, certainly, Empyrean. Goodbye, Sangrine. Your replacement said you couldn't, Silverbell. 7 shames on you. Sangrine spends most of the day soaking in the hot springs. At some point, they wash and untangle their hair, which springs back to its sleek, dark iridescence, with the blue-green tint of a grackle. The ends of their top layer of hair flirt with their chin, not yet needing to be trimmed, though come spring equinox it would be too long. Once they return to their rooms, they think about what to wear. There's a game, this nonsense about dressing in casual wear. The way one presents himself says much about them. Sangrine has no idea what Lingsway's strange garb says about him, and they are sure to figure it out. It says he's from another land, perhaps one where Lunarians are foreign, or where other Fae reign and rule. Troubled thoughts flit through Sangrine's mind as they look through their bare breadth of their wardrobe. Some of the fair folk have easy measurements, such that their clothing does not need special tailoring, but Sangrine is bottom-heavy, with most of their weight in their thighs and hips. Thighs of a cavalier, Silverbell always said, despite Sangrine hardly knowing how to ride. You humble yourself, you ride like the winds bore you on the back of a horse. Silverbell said in another life, where glass wings did not serve the Lunarian kings, I should have been a cavalier. Whether in service to the crown or not, I had a fine seat upon horseback, of which she knew she lacked. No matter now. What to wear? Sangrine and Silverbell were not originally from the Teardrews, the swamps that surround the palace. They were from the Forest of Earl, which have now begun to merge in the Teardrews, their magnificent trees intertwining their branches, spreading their canopies. Sangrine still hasn't gotten used to the humidity of the swamp, the constant miasma of low-settling cloud, the fog that clings to fen and bog, the way the mists stick to skin and settle in. In the Teardrews, Sangrine sweats in the first swing of the sword, but with the Forest of Earl, they could not go from dusk till dawn without their hair plastering in their forehead. But the teardrops are beautiful. Sangreen stands, unself-conscious with a new pair of black deerskin gloves on, thin and supple, but otherwise entirely nude. They look out their window. They will miss this view. The trees are bigger in the teardrops, but fewer. Silver fir and aquarian reel, the mercurial turquoise and the teal of fickle leaf and mint and shield, the prickly layers of pale lichen and humble reed, a fallen star and starseed. Something in the swamp water helps the flora grow, from the most titanic of tree to the smallest milkweed. The imperial palace was born from hollow tree and willow mead, a multitude of twining groves of enormous tree. They were deftly woven, their enchantments well spoken, for the palace camouflages easily on the outside, is merely a thicket of majesty, not so different from any other rare cusp of trees with willowed leaves. But inside, that palace is unmistakably the domain of an emperor. But Sangreen is from the forest of Earl, so perhaps they'll dress as such. Having decided, Sangreen dresses swiftly in an audai of winter leaf, the cold translucence of shattered ice and austere dream, the embroidered pattern of frostflower rides, sinuous on top of leaf-spin tunic, the panels going down to their ankles and splitting at their waist. The curve of their hips and thighs would be exposed if not for the snowy spider silk pants that flow through their legs. Truthfully, Sangreen does not have any other viable option. Their audai is the only non-uniform garb they have, outside of the sleep shirts pilfered from Silverbell's discard pile. Now, every imperial occasion their dress uniform would not suit, they wear their audai, as though reminding everyone that they are not born from Fen, and they do not care to be mistaken as one who was. They finish adjusting their final hook of their high-collared throat as someone knocks on their door. They buckle their sword belt onto their hips. Come in. Hey now, look who's trussed up as a little delectable delight, Merxie says. I am only little because you are unseemingly large, Sangreen says. Merxie claps Sangreen on the shoulder, at the same time pushing them out of their chambers. She is a woman of imposing... Oh, pardon me. Ooh. She is a woman of imposing height and size of crude grace. Though she's an absolute viper with a lance, looking at her black-sleeved, sharp-shouldered uniform of white brocade and imperial frogging, Sangreen nearly spits with envy. New boss says to bring you to tea. Looking at you, I think you're trying to seduce the divine out of her bones. He said to dress in my favorite outfit, outside of uniform. And honey, you don't have any other outfits except for that one, do you? What do you think? Merxie slaps Sangreen on the arm. Sweetheart, you've got to get out more. I like it here. Yeah, and I like to rep snails from their shells for fun. Come on. I know we're no glasswings, but the Chime are a good bunch. Can't even invite Leafling. They would sooner trade places with the snail you just ripped out of their shell. Oh, come on. I know you take a fancy to them. Goddess above. I must have a little chat with whoever started that rumor. I'm pretty sure it's the old Master Silverbell. A little chat indeed. The halls of the Imperial Palace are suffused with the firefly warmth and the foxfire light. Luminescent fungi and crystal illuminate the cavernous ceilings. The thin sun shines through the rose-stained glass, bleeding it pink as it casts upon the mossy floors. A path of flat stones weave through the center of every hall, and eventually fade when the paths become too numerous to display. There's nothing wrong with Leafling, but they do not desire romance of any sort. Whoever said romance had to be part of it? Sangrian, I mean this kindly when I say, you have got to get railed. Leafling, it most certainly does not desire advances of that nature either. But do you? Hardly. Sangrian thinks about it. They sigh. No, I'm not like Leafling, who is perfectly content like that. Not to say that I'm not perfectly content, or was, with Lord Silverbell and her unromantic, unsexual arrangement. It's just, I suppose I haven't found any opportunity, though not for lack thereof. I suppose it's simply not been a priority or an interest, though that's not to say that I'm not interested in eventually finding some kind of partner. Looks like the new boss has his eyes on you, Mercy waggles her eyebrow. What do you think of her? We barely spoke 2 words, and most of her 10 words to me about you were about you. As expected of a Lunarian lord coming to meet the last Glasswing. I, don't think her interests were of your glass wings, if you catch my drift. Oh, they're punishing me for my insolence. I really don't think... Ugh, it looks like we're here. Goodbye, Mercy. Come join Leafling and I for tea sometime. Oh, you know I don't drink that swill. Then come for the company. I just might, Mercy winks. Sangrian faces the round door to the tea room. The door to the tea room is a round imperial glint pearl, opalescent. Sangrian opens it, walks in, and almost immediately loses her footing. They're somehow outside, in a garden that certainly did not exist here yesterday. The room the same octagonal shape as it should have been, but with wild silver grass and milk clover covering the floor, rolling in small hills across the room. A dirt path leads from the door to the tea table. Surrounding the floor table in its fluffed cushions are tall branching flowers, the likes of which Sangrian knows are not native to the fen or forest of Earl. The lush white shapes of the flowers are familiar. Sangrian has seen them in a book before. For the life of them, they can't recall the name. Oleander, Linsway says. A poisonous plant. The dose makes the poison. Come, sit. Take off your shoes. Sangrian does as expected, their thick, socked feet, expecting to sink into the spongy moss, and instead finding soft grass, leaving them off balance. Lingsway laughs. Sangrian kneels on the cushion, tucking their feet behind them. An interesting choice of outfit. I would say the same of you, Sangrian raises an eyebrow. Lingsway is in a variation of his original outfit from this morning, this time in black robes with amaranth piping and pearlescent lilac white sash tied into a bow in the front. His sable fur, which overhung his shoulder in the morning, has turned silver white, though Sangrian is certain is the same one, and it lies bundled in his lap. Would you like me to explain my garb to you? No. Lingsway laughs, showing sharp fangs. Why not? Because then you'll ask me to explain mine. You do not like me, do you? I do not need to, Sangrian shrugs. Silverbell never said you'd be so difficult. Sangrian studies the way the moon roses cover the windows, climbing their frames like a trellis. They point. Do you play? Play what? Divinities. I've not heard of it, but you can explain the rules to me over tea. Sangrian nods. Across the table, Linsway is sitting with one leg up and the other folded across. She rests an elbow on her pulled-up knee. Sangrian moves to pour the tea, as they've done for Silverbell thousands of times, but Linsway beats them to it. Sangrian frowns. But then they smell the tea. Strange and alluring. The liquor is jade pale, so weak in color Sangrian could assume that it was equally mild in flavor, but the fragrance is almost overpoweringly full. Notes of honeysuckle and melon flower the air. The concept of fruity tea outside of a sort that is practically a hot juice, derived from wildberry jams, baffles them so much that they don't know how to speak. Enticing, is it not? Still sniffing the air, Sangrian hesitantly nods. It is a jade melon green tea. The tea leaves are mixed with the dry jade melon, which grows in the mountains once every summer and steeped together. Sangreen nods, placing their hands on the table patiently. What are you waiting for? The Lord should always have the first drink. Lingzui sighs. I'm not asking you to do away with formality altogether, but asking you to view me more as an aspiring friend than a distant master. Take a sip. Sangreen does not need to be told twice. The flavor is mellow, sweet, and smooth. Certainly a green tea by its mild flavor of meadow, but well brewed. The melon touch sweetens the tea and adds notes of bright, hot summer and crispness, like licking the dew from a melon. You look pleased. Lingzui laughs and sips his own tea. Now you look like you have something you wish to ask me. You do not know the game of divinities. Lingzui smiles wryly. That's not your question. Will you play with me or against? Why now? A glasswing should always be on their lord's side. You're trying to seduce me. Sangreen sips their tea. Lingzui looks them up and down. And I dare say you're trying to do the same to me. I am not. I don't need to. I would say the same of me. Will you play with me or against? Sangreen says. Against, Lingzui says. What are the rules? Know more about your opponent than they know about you. Ask me a question. Are we playing? Yes, my turn. Come now, practice round. There is no forgiveness in divinities, nor in Sir Sangreen's heart. Lingzui dramatically puts a hand to her chest. Her hand is bare again. Sangreen rubs their thinly gloved hands. Why are you here? Why do you care? You will serve anyone, will you not? Sangreen places their hands on the table, which has a mother of pearl engravings of dark wood. Which is your question? I will answer after you answer mine. How does one earn your loyalties? Now answer mine. I was looking for a throne and Silverbell had a throne. Regrettably, I did not think my chances were all too high in my own hands, so I am taking over Silverbell's for her. Were they not high because you were too weak? Looking at what you did to this room, that could be the case. That couldn't be the case, because you are unloved by the Lunarians there. Because Lunaire Fae reside there. Where are those hands in these mountains? You mentioned the melon seed being derived from the mountain fruit. You are homesick. You yearn for it, at least a bit. Otherwise, you would have been too eager to try the taste of the new land, your new homeland. I am loyal to Silverbell due to a long affection and long bloodline of service. But I am the last of my kind, and my master has left me. My affections must be earned. Shall I court you? I'd sooner slit your throat. That can be arranged. Lingzui's eyes twinkle. Just then, a messenger comes bursting in the door. Empyrean, the spy master is staging a coup. Lingzui and Sangreen look at each other. You expected as such, Sangreen says, and that is why you invited me for tea. Lingzui smiles. Caught out, am I? Come now, we have a coup to stop. Certainly you'll find me more favorable than a resident spy master. If only by a margin. With deft hands, Sangreen strips out of the tunic half of their audai and folds it on the ground. Their pants are wide and feet tightly slippered. Lingzui raises an eyebrow, looking at their completely flat but lightly muscled chest. Were you expecting something different? Lingzui touches his lip. I had forgotten Lunarians have a blend of characteristics, more hybridity of form than other Fae, and a decoupling of its meaning. I haven't the slightest idea what you're on about. Has it been so very long since you spent time outside of your own kind, around your own kind? Perhaps you spent too much. Sangreen looks at Lingzui. They see a sly, heavy figure in strange clothing, with breasts that Sangreen could have sworn that weren't there this morning, and rounder hips than their narrow, square ones from before. Sangreen puzzles over it a minute, but truly can't parse its meaning. What meaning? These characteristics? Of what import are they? The Mountain Fae teach you glamour? I thought that Lunarians had no talent for such tricks. I have my ways. Come now, we have a coup to stop. Before Lin Zui leaves the garden, he puts on a bandolier of what looks like handbells across his now fuller chest. Sangring has no idea what purpose it could have possibly served, but has now accepted that Lin Zui has gotten some strange ideas in the world beyond the Lunarian territories. He basically only has time to strap on before traders enter the garden and hustle Lin Zui and Sangrin to the throne room. The spy master, who insists on being referred to only as Spy Master feyxuan, sits on Silverbell's throne, legs crossed. He has a bland face, features neither here nor there, neither large nor small, defined nor mild, simply unmemorable. It is probably useful in their profession. She has a skin tone like curdled milk. Usurper Lin Zui, what proof have you that our Lord Silverbell designated you the rightful inheritor of the Emperor's crown? You demand my proof without showing me any of yours, Lin Zui drawls. feyxuan extends her hand. There is a ring on it that Sangrin has never seen. I have Silverbell's signet ring. Sangrin looks around the room. Merksy is nearby, and the rest of the chime are scattered upon the room. Whether or not they supported this coup, Sangrin does not need to ask. He will follow Sangrin's lead. It doesn't matter whose claim is legitimate. They will serve the glass-winged Emperor. You were right to ask me the price of my loyalty, Empyrean. And? Lin Zui asks. And? It is the only way to prove your right to the throne. Every ruler before has had a signet, and the history dictates that every ruler since must have the signet. You must have a fake one. I'll prove it. Sangrin? Sangrin does not respond. They look up the rafters laced with a netting of fairy lights. Leafling with their dandelion fluff hair is there with their songbird bow, the pearlescent fletching of silverly white arrows, tipped with hollow bone that will shatter inside the body. Though they may not be absolutely certain that the rest of the chime following their lead, they know Leafling will. Sangrin has one hand on their sword's hilt, a simple, unadorned, narrow obsidian blade. They do not know Lin Zui, but they know he knows how to play the game. Spy Master feyxuan thinks too highly of herself. Lin Zui, on the other hand, thinks just as highly of herself as she can prove, which, disdainfully enough, is quite high. Sangrin thinks nothing of their life and their skill, but wishes for others to also think nothing of it. And despite whatever they've said to Silverbell, Sangrin does not doubt that they are Grand Master at divinities. It's a child's game, feyxuan has said. Little saplings playing at god trees that they'll never reach higher than a bird's knees. Asking fools questions have nothing to do with ruling. Ruling is all in the blood. You are born for it, or you are not. Sangrin was not born for it, but knowledge is power in a way that feyxuan cannot see, and will never know despite trading in it. And getting more knowledge than you give is what the entire practice of ruling is built upon. At the same time, however, Sangrin will not serve an unworthy master. If Lin Zui cannot defeat the fool feyxuan, it makes him worse than feyxuan herself. Lin Zui laughs, a deep and resonant sound. We make and remake history at the end of Give me a second. We make and remake history at the end of every legacy. Silverbell's legacy has ended, and she has decided to remake history. Lin Zui pulls a round bell from the pocket of their bandolier and tosses it into the air. The silver of it mesmerizes, and this, Sangrin has seen before. Silverbell's standard for resolving conflicts was this: coax the opposing faction to one-on-one combat to the death, with herself as the duelist. Even if it's a trick, many of her opponents cannot resist the lure of killing their enemy leader, trusting their own champions to surpass Silverbell. Then at the start of every duel, Silverbell will throw up her namesake, and every spectator within sight will find their attention drawn irresistibly towards the hypnotic glimmer of silver, and then Silverbell will cast the killing blow. The only catch to it is that, despite being a trick that always works, the duration of its effect lessens with every witnessing of it. This is why Silverbell dueled every challenger with no witnesses other than Sangrine, and why Sangrine arranged for the unfortunate accident to befell all of her adversaries' witnesses. Lin's Way performs in a similar deception now. Sangrine recovers first while all of their Spymaster's guards and Chime are mesmerized. They watch as Lin's Way flies up with a broad sweeping of white starling wing to perch next to the leafling on the ledge, wrestling the songbird bow and ivory arrow from Leafling's stiff fingers. Lin's Way knocks an arrow. The whistle of the arrow flies through the air at the moment that everyone reanimates. The bell falls to the ground, just as feyxuan turns to look at Lin's Way. An arrow pierces through her eye. It bursts in a fountain of blood. Her body crumples in on the ground. Do we have any more challengers? The second the tide turns, the spies flee. The Chime let them go, attacking only when they're attacked, and continuing to do nothing since Sangrine has done nothing. It is of little matter. Sangrine knows each and every one of feyxuan's network. They can easily arrange for their deaths through the manipulation of their own network that they have been building since being raised as a Lunarian king's servant. Any Lunarian in a ruling position is a Lunarian lord, but as the Lunarian kings are the descendants of godlikes, whether or not they're in positions of ruling power in this incarnation. But Silverbell, even as the child of a disposed noble house, has ambition beyond measure, and she bled true. Once her family knew, and Sangrine already had been promised to serve, they raised them both to win the world, and then Silverbell gave it away. Nay, sire, no challengers here. Merksea steps up and says, but neither will the Chime follow you yet. The elaborate tapestry of the flat hills of moss leading to the ornate silver-wrought throne is soaked through with feyxuan's blood. Pardon me. It is displayed the legends of Lior, but those legends are no more. But before us stands the Empyrean's monarch, Lin's Way, who will not betray their mind, in whom Sangrine does not know what they will find. And what can I do to gain their loyalty? Lin's Way says, flexing his bare hands around the bow. That's not up to me, Merksea shrugs. A stray wind flicks Sangrine's hair. The choice has been taken away from me. But we shall see how worthy a ruler you prove to be, Lin's Way. Sangrine lets go of their sword hilt. They assess the room, now empty of spies, leaving only them and the Chime. The other quarters have been locked in their rooms by feyxuan's folk. Feyxuan had a reputation for ill grace, so she couldn't trust the courtiers to turn on her for their own sakes. The high webbed ceilings of the canopied trees lets in the dappled light upon Lin's Way's bloodless shoulders and bare golden fingers still holding the bow. Lin's Way's hair, a luminous white, composed more of glittering iridescence than color, slips past his shoulders like water and drips nearly to his toes. The tightly grown walls of woven bark leaves, Sangrine's silence clicking with insect chitter and flittering wings of glowing moths. I thought I would die before seeing the end of the world, but it has come. Already it has come. This morning was the first day of the end of the world, and though I will survive it, it is likely that I will never take another master. I will serve. I was born to serve, but I will never take another master. In the end of the world, there is only divinities left. We fairies are all descendants of gods. The Lunarian kings like Silverbell are descended from the earthly gods and godlikes. I do not know yet if Lin's way is the same, but she has earned the chance to play against me in my final game of divinities. Send for me in the green of the world's end. You have the silver of my sword. You will see me in the fen. You will play against me, Sangrine, the last to ever serve a Lunarian king, the last Glasswing. Sangrine kneels. The Empyrean's reign marks the end of the world. What will come of it? We shall all see unfurled the flick of her wings. Long live the white starling. Okay, Sangrine Lee, the last of their time. Kind. Alright, so with that, that's the first 2 chapters of Lioness.